You're safe now.
Get down! The gunshot exploded through the crystal chandeliers of the Sterling Industries charity gala. Daniel Crawford threw himself in front of 6-year-old Lucy Sterling, his janitor uniform stark against the sea of tuxedos and evening gowns. He felt the bullet tear through his shoulder as Lucy's terrified scream pierced his ears. Around them, 200 of Manhattan's elite scattered in chaos. Daniel wrapped his arms around the little girl, shielding her body with his own as 2 more shots rang out. "You're safe now," he gasped through the pain, his blood staining her silver party dress. "I've got you." Across the ballroom, Lucy's mother, CEO Willow Sterling, fought through the panicked crowd, her emerald gown ripped, mascara streaming down her face, reaching desperately for her daughter. But Daniel held firm, keeping Lucy protected until the shooter was subdued. He'd been emptying trash bins 30 seconds ago. Now he was bleeding out on a marble floor, and the only thing that mattered was the terrified child in his arms. The bullet had missed his heart by 3 inches. Daniel woke in Mount Sinai Hospital 48 hours later to find Willow Sterling sitting beside his bed, eyes red from crying, Lucy asleep in her lap. The CEO of a $10 billion tech empire, still wearing yesterday's torn gown, looked like she hadn't left his side. "You saved my daughter's life," Willow whispered when she saw his eyes open. "You took a bullet meant for her." Daniel tried to sit up, winced at the pain radiating through his shoulder. Anyone would have done the same. No, they wouldn't. 200 people ran. You ran toward the danger. She reached for his hand, squeezed gently. "The doctors said if you'd been 1 second slower, the bullet would have hit Lucy in the chest. You stepped in front of her without hesitating, without thinking about yourself." He looked at the little girl sleeping peacefully, her blonde hair spilled across her mother's lap. "Is she okay? Was she hurt?" "Physically, she's fine. Emotionally, she's traumatized. She keeps asking for you, for the man who saved me. She doesn't even know your name." "Daniel Crawford." Willow's eyes filled with fresh tears. "Daniel Crawford, my daughter is alive because of you. How do I ever repay that?" "You don't. I was just doing what was right. You're a janitor at Sterling Industries. You work the night shift. You have an 8-year-old daughter named Sophie who goes to PS 42. Your wife died 3 years ago from cancer. You're working 3 jobs to pay off medical debt. You volunteer at a homeless shelter on weekends, and you just threw yourself in front of a bullet for a child you'd never met." Daniel stared at her. "How do you know all that?" "Because I had my head of security run a complete background check. Because I needed to understand what kind of man risks his life for a stranger. Because I'm trying to comprehend how someone I've walked past 1,000 times, someone I never saw, turned out to be the bravest person I've ever known." The weight of her words sat heavy between them. Lucy stirred, opened her eyes, saw Daniel awake. She scrambled off her mother's lap and climbed onto his hospital bed, careful of his bandaged shoulder. "You saved me," Lucy said softly, her blue eyes solemn. "The bad man had a gun. You stood in front of me. I saw the blood. I thought you were going to die." Daniel's throat tightened. "I'm okay, sweetheart. The doctors fixed me up. Mommy says you're a hero. She says heroes are people who help others even when it's scary. Were you scared?" "Yeah, I was terrified." "But you did it anyway?" "That's what heroes do. They do the right thing even when they're afraid." Lucy hugged him carefully, her small arms around his neck. "Thank you for saving me. I don't want to be dead." Willow covered her mouth, trying to muffle a sob. Daniel held the little girl, his own eyes burning. He thought about Sophie, about how he'd feel if someone saved her life, about the debt that couldn't be measured in money. A detective arrived an hour later, asking questions. The shooter was Marcus Brennan, a former Sterling Industries executive who'd been fired 6 months ago for embezzlement. He'd blamed Willow for ruining his life, destroying his reputation. He'd planned to kill her at the gala, to make her pay. But when he entered with a gun, Lucy had been standing in his line of fire, and he'd decided to hurt Willow in the worst possible way, by killing her daughter first. Mr. Crawford's intervention saved multiple lives, the detective said. Brennan was heavily armed. If he'd succeeded in his first target, he would have continued shooting. Your security footage shows at least 15 people would have been in his direct line of fire. After the detective left, Willow sat beside Daniel's bed in silence for a long time. Lucy had fallen back asleep, curled up in a chair, exhausted from trauma and relief. "I want to offer you a job," Willow said finally. "Head of corporate security, 6-figure salary, full benefits, college fund for Sophie. Not charity, not payment, but because you have the instincts, the courage, and the character we need." Daniel shook his head. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm not qualified. I was a Marine, yeah, but that was 15 years ago. I've been mopping floors and fixing leaky toilets for the past 5 years. I don't have the credentials for executive security." "You have the only credential that matters. You ran toward danger to protect a child. That's the person I want leading our security team. Credentials can be learned. Character can't." If you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing to SD Love Stories for more heartwarming tales of courage and unexpected connections. Hit the like button and share this with someone who believes in heroes who emerge from the most unexpected places. Because sometimes the person who saves your life is the one you never saw coming. 3 months earlier, Daniel Crawford's life looked very different. He woke at 4:30 a.m. in his studio apartment in Queens, careful not to wake 8-year-old Sophie sleeping in the bedroom they shared. He'd given her the bed, took the couch himself, made coffee in silence, reviewed his schedule. 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. custodial work at Sterling Industries, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. warehouse loading at a shipping company, 8 p.m. to midnight overnight stock at a 24-hour pharmacy. 4 jobs, 6 days a week, trying to chip away at $300,000 in medical debt from his wife Sarah's cancer treatment. Sophie stirred, came out rubbing her eyes. "Morning, Dad." "Morning, Princess. Pancakes or cereal?" "We have pancakes." "I got a box of mix on sale, special breakfast before school." Sophie's face lit up. Small moments of joy felt precious when money was always tight. Daniel made pancakes while Sophie did her homework at their tiny kitchen table. He helped her with math, braided her hair the way YouTube videos had taught him, packed her lunch with notes saying, "Dad loves you." "Mr. Roberts says there's a field trip next month," Sophie said carefully, "to the Natural History Museum. It costs $30. Daniel's chest tightened. $30, a fortune and a pittance at the same time. "I'll make it work, sweetheart. You're going on that field trip." "If it's too much, you're going." He knelt in front of her. "You don't worry about money, okay? That's my job. Your job is being 8 years old and learning about dinosaurs." Sophie hugged him. "I miss Mom." "Me too, baby. Every single day." He walked her to school, went to his first job. Sterling Industries occupied a 50-story glass tower in Midtown Manhattan. Daniel had worked there for 2 years, part of the invisible workforce that kept the building running. He knew every executive's schedule, which floors needed deep cleaning, which bathrooms were used most. He was good at his job, took pride in his work, even though most people looked through him like he didn't exist, including Willow Sterling. He'd seen her dozens of times. The CEO was 36, brilliant, drove her company to record profits year after year. She walked with purpose, always on her phone, always moving fast. Blonde hair in a perfect ponytail, designer suits, heels that clicked against marble floors. She was kind in a distracted way, said thank you when he held doors, but Daniel knew she didn't actually see him. He was wallpaper, background, necessary but forgettable. He understood. She had a $10 billion company to run, a daughter to raise alone, board meetings and investor calls and product launches. Why would she notice the janitor emptying her trash? But Daniel noticed her. Hard not to. Willow Sterling was magnetic, even from a distance. More than her looks, though she was beautiful. It was her presence, the way she commanded rooms, the way employees straightened when she passed, the way she juggled impossible demands and still made time to read bedtime stories to Lucy over video call when she traveled. Daniel had daughters to protect, bills to pay, survival to manage. Noticing the CEO was pointless. They existed in different universes that happened to share physical space. His second job was brutal, lifting boxes in a warehouse, repetitive and hard on his back. His manager, a guy named Rick, was perpetually angry, yelled at everyone, docked pay for bathroom breaks. Daniel kept his head down, did the work, didn't complain. He needed the money too badly to risk losing the job. One afternoon, Rick started screaming at a new guy, a kid maybe 19 who'd dropped a pallet. "You stupid piece of shit! That's coming out of your paycheck. You think I'm running a charity here?" Daniel stepped between them. "It was an accident. The pallet was unstable. I saw it." "Stay out of this, Crawford. This doesn't concern you. He's a kid learning the job. Give him a break." Rick got in Daniel's face. "You want to lose hours? Keep talking." Daniel held his ground. "You want to keep good workers? Stop treating people like garbage." The kid kept his job. Daniel lost 4 hours that week. He couldn't afford it, but some principles mattered more than money. Sarah would have been proud. She'd always said his Marine Corps sense of honor would get him in trouble. She'd been right. His third job was the pharmacy, midnight restocking. Quiet, mindless work that let him think. He thought about Sophie, about the field trip he'd have to find money for, about Sophie's upcoming 9th birthday, about wanting to give her something special, about the college fund he couldn't contribute to, about the medical debt that seemed impossible to escape, about Willow Sterling and her perfect life in her glass tower. He wasn't bitter. Bitter required energy he didn't have. He just felt the vast distance between their worlds. She flew first class while he rode the subway. She wore clothes that cost more than his monthly rent. Her daughter went to private school with tutors and enrichment classes. His daughter went to public school and did homework at their kitchen table. But both of them were single parents doing their best, both trying to be enough for daughters who'd lost the other parent. In that, they weren't so different. Grief and love were the same at every income level. The charity gala changed everything. Daniel wasn't supposed to be there. His shift started at midnight, cleaning up after the event. But the regular evening janitor called in sick and Daniel got called to cover. Double time pay. He couldn't refuse. He arrived at 6 p.m. wearing his uniform, carrying his supplies. The gala was already underway. 200 people in formal wear, champagne flowing, a string quartet playing. Daniel kept to the edges, emptying trash, replacing paper towels in bathrooms, invisible as always. He saw Willow across the ballroom, stunning in an emerald green gown, talking to donors, laughing, working the room. Lucy was there too, in a silver party dress, well-behaved but clearly bored. She sat at a table near the stage, colouring in a book while adults talked around her. Daniel went about his work. He was in the service hallway behind the stage when he heard the first scream. Instinct took over. Marine Corps training buried deep, but never forgotten. He dropped his mop, ran toward the sound, burst through the service door into chaos. A man with a gun stood on the stage. People running, screaming, tables overturning. The gunman tracking movement, raising the weapon. Daniel's eyes found Lucy frozen in terror 6 feet from the shooter, directly in his line of fire. Daniel didn't think. Thinking would have meant hesitation. He ran straight at Lucy, dove in front of her as the gun fired. The impact spun him sideways. Pain exploded through his shoulder. He wrapped himself around Lucy, used his body as a shield, waited for the next bullet. Security tackled the shooter. The gun skidded across marble. More screams, more running. Daniel held Lucy, felt her shaking, felt his own blood soaking through his uniform. "You're safe now," he managed to say. "I've got you." Paramedics arrived. Police. Chaos. Daniel refused to let go of Lucy until Willow got there, until he saw the mother reach her daughter, until he knew Lucy was truly safe. Only then did he let the darkness take him. When he woke in the hospital 2 days later, his life had fundamentally changed. The media ran with the story. Janitor hero saves CEO's daughter. News trucks outside Mount Sinai. Reporters shouting questions. Hospital security keeping them away. Daniel's phone exploded with messages from people he hadn't talked to in years. Willow handled it with the efficiency of someone used to media storms. She released a statement praising Daniel's heroism, asked for privacy for his recovery, established a fund for his medical expenses that was fully funded within hours by anonymous donors. Daniel suspected Willow herself had covered it, but she denied it when he asked. "People wanted to help," she said simply. "You reminded everyone that courage still exists, that selflessness still matters. They needed to see that." Sophie visited every day after school. Willow's driver picked her up, brought her to the hospital, waited to take her home. Sophie and Lucy became fast friends, coloring together while Daniel recovered, while Willow worked on her laptop nearby, refusing to leave. "Don't you have a company to run?" Daniel asked one evening. "I can run it from here. My daughter needs to feel safe. Being near you makes her feel safe." "I'm nobody special. I just did what anyone would do." "Stop saying that." Willow's voice was sharp. "You're not nobody. You risked your life for my child. You matter, Daniel, to Lucy, to Sophie, to me." The way she said "to me" made something shift in the air between them. Daniel came home after 2 weeks. His apartment felt smaller than ever with Willow Sterling standing in it. She'd insisted on seeing where he lived, on understanding his life. She looked around the studio, at the second-hand furniture, the clothes drying on a rack, the twin beds Sophie slept in. "You gave her your bedroom," Willow said quietly. "She needs her own space. I'm fine on the couch." "You're working 3 jobs to pay medical debt while living on a couch so your daughter has a bed. And you think you're nobody special." "I'm doing what parents do, what you do for Lucy." "I'd do anything for Lucy. But I have resources, money, options. You have nothing but determination and love. And somehow you're managing." "That's not nothing, Daniel. That's extraordinary." Their eyes met. Held. Something unspoken passed between them. "The job offer stands," Willow said. "Head of corporate security. I need someone I trust absolutely. Someone who sees danger before it happens. Someone who acts without hesitation. That's you." "I don't know anything about corporate security." "You know about protecting people. The rest is teachable. Say yes, Daniel. Let me give you this. Not as payment. As recognition that you're wasting your talents, emptying trash bins, when you could be keeping people safe." Daniel thought about Sophie, about the field trip money, about the medical debt, about pride and practicality. "What's the salary?" 150,000 base, plus benefits, plus performance bonuses. Full health coverage for you and Sophie, pension, college fund contribution. Daniel's knees almost buckled. More money than he'd made in 3 years combined. That's too much. That's market rate for executive security directors. You'll earn every penny. The board approved it unanimously. They watched the security footage, Daniel. They saw you run into gunfire. They want you on our team. When would I start? After you're cleared by doctors. 6 weeks, maybe. We'll pay full salary during recovery. Sophie's private school tuition is also covered. Lucy wants her in the same school. They're inseparable. Willow, I can't accept charity. It's not charity. It's two little girls who survived trauma together and found comfort in each other. It's practicality. They can carpool, have play dates, support each other. Don't let pride get in the way of what's good for Sophie. She was right. Daniel knew it. Okay, yes, I accept the position. Willow smiled, radiant and genuine. Thank you. You have no idea how much safer I'll feel with you there. Over the next 6 weeks, as Daniel healed, his relationship with Willow evolved. She visited often, always with Lucy, but the visits stretched longer. They talked about everything. His military service, her business challenges, his struggles as a single dad, her guilt about working too much, his wife Sarah's death, her husband Marcus's death 5 years ago in a car accident. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing Lucy, Willow admitted one evening. They were on Daniel's fire escape, watching the Queen's sunset while the girls played inside. I'm always working, always stressed. I miss bedtimes and school plays. I'm giving her money and opportunities, but am I giving her what she actually needs? A present parent? You're doing your best, Daniel said. That's all any of us can do. Lucy knows you love her. That's what matters. You make it look easy. Sophie's so grounded, so happy. You're with her every morning, every night. You're there. Because I don't have a $10 billion company to run. It's not the same, Willow. You're comparing apples and aircraft carriers. She laughed, then sobered. I envy you sometimes. The simplicity of your life. Wake up, take care of Sophie, work, come home, repeat. No board meetings or hostile takeovers or product launches. Just being a dad. Simple doesn't mean easy. I've worked 3 jobs for 3 years. I haven't had a day off in 18 months. I eat ramen so Sophie can have real meals. Simple is just a different kind of hard. Willow reached for his hand. The gesture felt natural, like they'd been doing it for years. I don't know how you do it. The strength it takes. Same way you do, one day at a time, loving your kid more than you hate the struggle. They sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined, watching the city lights come on. Something was building between them, something neither of them had expected or looked for, something that felt inevitable and terrifying in equal measure. Daniel started work 8 weeks after the shooting. His shoulder still ached, but he was cleared for duty. Willow gave him a corner office on the executive floor, a security team of 12, a budget that made him dizzy. He dove into the work, discovering he was good at it. His military training translated perfectly. He identified vulnerabilities, updated protocols, ran drills, built relationships with local law enforcement. His first day was surreal, walking into Sterling Industries as an executive instead of custodial staff. Wearing a suit, Willow had insisted on buying him, taking the executive elevator to the 45th floor instead of the service elevator to the basement. His nameplate on the door, Daniel Crawford, Director of Corporate Security. His team was skeptical at first. 12 security professionals, most with law enforcement or military backgrounds, suddenly reporting to the janitor-turned-hero. They'd heard the story, seen the footage, but competence and courage weren't the same thing. Daniel addressed it head-on in their first meeting. I know what you're thinking. Who is this guy? He mopped floors 3 months ago, now he's our boss? Is this a publicity stunt? His team shifted uncomfortably. Daniel continued, I get it. I'd think the same thing. So let me be clear. I'm not here because I'm a hero. I'm here because I see threats others miss. Because I spent 2 years learning every inch of this building while invisible. Because I know which executives stay late, which entry points are vulnerable, which employees exhibit concerning behavior, and because when danger came, I didn't freeze. He pulled up security footage from the gala. Watch this. Everyone else ran. Human nature, nothing wrong with that. But watch the exits. Bottlenecks. Panic. 3 people were trampled in the rush. Our protocols failed. If Brennan had continued shooting, we'd have had dozens of casualties. The team watched soberly. Daniel highlighted the failures. Inadequate screening at entry. No armed guards in the ballroom. Emergency exits blocked by catering equipment. Communication breakdown between building security and event security. "I'm not here to place blame," Daniel said. "I'm here to make sure this never happens again. You're the experts. I need your knowledge, your experience, your honesty. Tell me what's broken. Tell me what's needed. We're going to build the best corporate security team in the city. Together." The skepticism thawed. Over the following weeks, Daniel proved himself. He listened more than he talked. He implemented suggestions from his team. He fought for budget increases, better equipment, more training. He rode along with night security, learned their challenges, fixed problems they'd been complaining about for years. Word spread. The new director wasn't just a figurehead. He was competent, dedicated, and genuinely cared about making people safer. But the transition wasn't easy. Daniel struggled with imposter syndrome. He'd wake at 3 a.m. in a cold sweat, convinced he'd made a terrible mistake taking the job. He'd worked manual labor his entire adult life. Now he was managing people, presenting to the board, making 6-figure decisions. Willow talked him through it every time. "You belong here. Stop waiting for someone to expose you as a fraud. You're not a fraud. You're learning fast, working hard, and getting results. That's all anyone can ask. But I don't have the credentials. No college degree, no certification, nothing that qualifies me for this position on paper. You have something better, real-world experience, Marine combat training, 2 years observing this building while invisible, and instincts that saved lives. Credentials are nice. Results matter more." His relationship with the former custodial staff was complicated. His old co-workers were thrilled for him, proud one of their own had made it out. But there was also resentment. Why him? Why not others who'd worked there longer, worked harder, deserved recognition too? Daniel made a point of visiting the custodial break room weekly, sitting with his old crew, listening to their concerns. He used his new position to improve their working conditions. Better equipment, more reasonable schedules, wage increases, respect from other departments. He couldn't change the system entirely, but he could make their lives less hard. "You didn't forget us," his old supervisor Manuel said one afternoon. "Lots of guys. They move up. They forget where they came from. Not you. You're still the same Daniel, just with a better office." "I'll never forget," Daniel said. "This building runs because of people like you. People who show up at 4 a.m. to empty trash and mop floors so everyone else can work in a clean space. You matter, Manuel. All of you matter. Don't ever think you don't." But the bigger change was cultural. For the first time in years, people saw him. Executives greeted him by name. Employees stopped him to say thank you for making them feel safer. The janitor who'd been invisible was now the hero everyone knew. It was weird and uncomfortable and validating all at once. One incident tested Daniel's leadership 3 months into his tenure. An employee in accounting, a man named Robert Fletcher, was exhibiting concerning behavior. Coming in early, staying late, accessing files outside his department, making unusual comments about Willow in team meetings. Daniel's team flagged it. Most wanted to fire Fletcher immediately. "We need to investigate first," Daniel said. "Understand what's happening before we act." He met with Fletcher personally, not an interrogation, just a conversation. Offered coffee, asked how things were going. Fletcher broke down. His wife had filed for divorce. He was losing custody of his kids. He was drowning in legal fees. He'd been working overtime trying to afford a lawyer, accessing files to understand complex financial regulations for his case. The comments about Willow weren't threatening, just admiration for a successful single parent, wishing he could manage like she did. Daniel got Fletcher connected with employee assistance, helped him find affordable legal aid, adjusted his schedule so he could attend custody hearings. No termination, just help. "You took a risk," Willow said when she heard. "What if you were wrong? What if he was a real threat? Then we would have caught it. We were monitoring him. But I saw a man in crisis, not a man planning violence. There's a difference. I spent 3 years in crisis after Sarah died. If someone had offered help instead of judgment, maybe those years would have been less hard. You're not just protecting people from external threats. You're creating a culture where people feel supported before they reach crisis. That's remarkable, Daniel. That's what security should be. Prevention, not just reaction." The media attention faded after a few months. Life settled into a new rhythm. Sophie thrived at her new school, made friends, stopped worrying about money because Daniel stopped worrying about money. They moved to a 2-bedroom apartment in a better neighborhood. Sophie got her own room, her own bed, her own space. "Dad, this is amazing," Sophie said, spinning in circles in her new bedroom. "I can't believe this is ours." "You deserve it, Princess. You've been so patient with how hard things were." "Were you scared when the bad man had the gun?" "Terrified. But you saved Lucy anyway. That's so brave." "Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing the right thing even when you're scared. Remember that, Sophie. Courage isn't about being fearless. It's about acting despite fear." "Is Miss Willow your girlfriend?" The question caught Daniel off guard. "What? No. Why would you ask that?" "Because you look at her the way Mom said you used to look at her, like she's the most important person in the world." Daniel's throat tightened. "Miss Willow and I are friends. She's my boss. Mom told me before she died that she wanted you to be happy again, that she didn't want you to be alone forever. I think she'd like Miss Willow. I think she'd want you to look at someone that way again." Daniel pulled Sophie into a hug, fighting tears. "Your mom was pretty smart, huh? The smartest, so maybe listen to her about being happy, out of the mouths of 8-year-olds. You deserve it, Princess. You've been so patient with how hard things were. Were you scared when the bad man had the gun? Terrified. But you saved Lucy anyway. That's so brave. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing the right thing even when you're scared. Remember that, Sophie. Courage isn't about being fearless. It's about acting despite fear." "Is Miss Willow your girlfriend?" The question caught Daniel off guard. "What? No. Why would you ask that?" "Because you look at her the way Mom said you used to look at her, like she's the most important person in the world." Daniel's throat tightened. "Miss Willow and I are friends. She's my boss. Mom told me before she died that she wanted you to be happy again, that she didn't want you to be alone forever. I think she'd like Miss Willow. I think she'd want you to look at someone that way again." Daniel pulled Sophie into a hug, fighting tears. "Your mum was pretty smart, huh? The smartest. So maybe listen to her about being happy." Out of the mouths of 8-year-olds, Daniel's relationship with Willow continued to deepen over the following months. They had legitimate reasons to spend time together: security briefings, threat assessments, travel planning. But the meetings stretched long, turned into dinners, turned into conversations that had nothing to do with work. They talked about loneliness, about single parenthood, about the guilt of moving on from dead spouses, about whether it was possible to love again without betraying the memory of the first love. "Marcus was my whole world," Willow said one night. They were in her office after everyone had gone home, Chinese takeout containers between them. I thought I'd never feel anything again after he died. Just numbness, just the work and Lucy. But, Daniel prompted. But then a janitor threw himself in front of a bullet for my daughter, and suddenly I was feeling everything. Terror and gratitude and awe and something else. Something that scared me more than the gun did. What? Hope. That maybe I could love someone again. That maybe it's okay to want that. That Marcus would want me to be happy, not frozen in grief forever. Daniel reached across the desk, took her hand. Sarah told me the same thing before she died. That she wanted me to find love again. That I shouldn't spend my life alone. That Sophie needed to see me model healthy relationships. I promised her I would try. I just didn't expect to try with my boss. Willow smiled through tears. Life's funny that way. I spent 2 years walking past you every day, never seeing you. Now I can't imagine my life without you in it. Is that appropriate, given our professional relationship? Probably not, but I stopped caring about appropriate when you saved my daughter's life. Some things are more important than corporate policies. What are you saying, Willow? I'm saying I have feelings for you. Real, complicated, inconvenient feelings. I'm saying I think about you constantly. I'm saying Lucy asks when Daniel's coming over, and I realize I'm asking the same question. I'm saying I haven't felt this alive in years, and it's terrifying and wonderful, and I don't know what to do about it. Daniel stood, walked around the desk, pulled her to her feet. I have feelings for you too. Have for months. I've been trying to ignore them because you're my boss, because it seems impossible, because our lives are so different. Our lives aren't that different. We're both single parents doing our best, both grieving people learning to live again, both scared of taking risks but brave enough to try. That's more in common than not. What about the company? What about appearances? I don't care. I'll recuse myself from any decisions involving your compensation or position. You'll report to the board directly if needed. We'll make it work, Daniel, if you want to try. If this isn't just me being crazy. You're not crazy. Or if you are, I am too. He kissed her then, gentle and tentative, their first kiss tasting like Chinese food and possibility. Willow melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt, 5 years of loneliness dissolving in a moment of connection. This is real? She whispered against his lips. We're really doing this? Yeah, if you want to, if you're sure. I've never been more sure of anything. They told the girls 2 weeks later. Sophie and Lucy were having a sleepover at Willow's penthouse, building a blanket fort in the living room. Daniel and Willow sat them down with hot chocolate and too many marshmallows. We need to talk to you both about something important, Willow started. Lucy looked worried. Is someone else going to have a gun? No, baby. Nothing scary. Something good. Willow glanced at Daniel, took strength from his presence. Daniel and I have become very close. We care about each other a lot. And we wanted you both to know that we're dating, that we're boyfriend and girlfriend. Sophie started bouncing. I knew it. Lucy, I told you. I said they were going to fall in love. Lucy looked confused. Does this mean Daniel is going to be my dad? And you're going to be Sophie's mom? Not right away, Daniel said gently. We're taking things slow. But yes, eventually, if things keep going well, we might become a family. Would you be okay with that? Yes! Lucy threw herself at Daniel, hugging him tight. I want you to be my dad. You saved me. You're a hero. Heroes are the best dads. Sophie hugged Willow. I think my mum would be happy. She told me she wanted Dad to find love again. I think she'd like you. You're nice and you make Dad smile. Willow's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, sweetheart. That means everything to me. The 4 of them sat in the blanket fort, drinking cocoa, talking about what this meant, how they'd spend more time together, How Sophie and Lucy would really be sisters, not just friends. How they'd figure things out as they went, with honesty and patience and love. "Can we get a dog?" Lucy asked. Everyone laughed. "We'll see," Willow said. Dating Willow Sterling while working as her head of security was complicated. The board raised eyebrows. A few executives made snide comments about Daniel sleeping his way to the top. HR had concerns about conflicts of interest. Willow handled it with her characteristic directness, making clear that Daniel's position was earned, that their relationship didn't impact his job performance, that anyone with concerns could address them to her directly. But the whispers hurt. Daniel heard them in elevators, saw the smirks, felt the judgment. He'd worked so hard to prove himself, and people still saw him as the janitor who got lucky by taking a bullet. One particularly hard day, Daniel came home to his apartment defeated. A senior VP had made a crack about bedroom promotions during a meeting. Others had laughed. Daniel had kept his composure, but it gutted him. Sophie was at a sleepover. Daniel sat alone in his apartment, doubting everything. Maybe he should quit. Maybe the relationship wasn't worth the cost to his reputation. Maybe he was proving the critics right by dating his boss. Willow showed up an hour later. She had a key now, had started keeping clothes at his place. She took one look at his face and knew. "What happened?" he told her. About the comment, the laughter, the feeling that he'd never escape being seen as the janitor who lucked into a cushy job by being a hero and sleeping with the CEO. Willow's jaw clenched. "Who said it?" "Doesn't matter. They're not wrong, Willow. I didn't earn this the normal way. I don't have the credentials, the education, the experience. I took a bullet and got handed a six-figure job. Of course people are going to talk. You earned every cent of that salary. You've made this company safer than it's been in a decade. You've prevented 3 security incidents, improved employee morale, built a team that actually works together. You're brilliant at this job, Daniel. Don't let small-minded people make you doubt that. But they're right about one thing. I'm dating my boss. That's a conflict of interest no matter how we spin it." Willow sat beside him, took his hands. "Then I'll fix it. Tomorrow I'm calling the board. You'll report directly to them instead of me. Your performance reviews will be handled by an independent committee. Your compensation decisions will go through HR. We'll create every check and balance needed to prove this relationship doesn't affect your job." That's a lot of work to date someone. You're not just someone. You're the man I love. Yes, I said love. I love you, Daniel Crawford. I love your integrity, your courage, your heart. I love how you treat Lucy like your own daughter. I love how you've never once asked me for money or favors. I love that you still visit your old custodial crew because you haven't forgotten where you came from. I love you, and I'm not letting gossip destroy this. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. I love you too. God help me, I love you so much it scares me. Then stop letting fear win. We faced a gunman and survived. We can face corporate gossip. She was right. They implemented every safeguard, created clear separation between their personal and professional lives. Daniel reported to a board committee instead of Willow. His team expanded. His results spoke for themselves. The gossip didn't stop entirely, but it faded to background noise. The gossip died down after a few weeks. Results spoke louder than rumors. Daniel was excellent at his job. Security incidents dropped dramatically. Employee safety satisfaction scores went up. When a stalker targeted one of their engineers, Daniel handled it perfectly, working with police to make an arrest before anyone got hurt. The stalker case tested Daniel in ways the gala shooting hadn't. It was a slow-burn threat, not a sudden crisis. An engineer named Jennifer Park had an ex-boyfriend who wouldn't accept the breakup, started with emails, escalated to showing up at the office, sitting in the lobby for hours, watching her. Jennifer reported it. HR filed a restraining order. The ex, Craig Morrison, violated it repeatedly. Daniel coordinated with NYPD, but the system moved slowly. Morrison hadn't technically done anything violent, just creepy, threatening. The law struggled with that grey area. Daniel assigned a security officer to escort Jennifer to and from the building, monitored Morrison's movements, built a case. When Morrison finally escalated, bringing a knife to the office lobby, security was ready. They subdued him before he reached the elevators. Police arrested him on weapons charges, assault, stalking. Jennifer was safe. "You saved my life," Jennifer told Daniel afterward. The police said Morrison had a detailed plan. "He was going to force me into my car, drive somewhere remote. You stopped it by taking me seriously when everyone else said I was overreacting." "You weren't overreacting. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it usually is." The case made Daniel realize security wasn't just about guns and gates. It was about listening to people, believing them, acting before crisis hit. He started employee safety training, taught women how to report stalkers, how to create safety plans, how to trust their gut, taught everyone how to recognize concerning behavior, how to report without fear of retaliation. Sterling Industries became known as a company that took employee safety seriously. Recruitment improved, retention improved. People felt valued, protected, seen. He wasn't just protecting Willow. He was protecting everyone. That was the job. That was the calling he'd found. His relationship with Willow deepened through challenges and joy. They had their first real fight 4 months into dating. Willow made a major business decision without consulting Daniel, even though it affected security protocols. She changed the building access system, installed new biometric scanners, didn't tell him until installation was underway. Daniel was furious. "You undermined me. In front of my team. I'm supposed to oversee all security infrastructure. How can I do my job if you're making decisions without me?" "It's my company. I can make decisions about my own building." Not when those decisions affect security. Not when you have a head of security whose job is to oversee these things. You just proved what everyone's been saying, that our relationship means you don't take me seriously as a professional. Willow's face flushed. "That's not fair." "It's exactly fair. Would you have done this to any other director? Made major changes without consulting them?" She was silent. They both knew the answer. "I'm sorry," Willow said finally. "You're right. I wouldn't have. I guess I'm still adjusting to you being in that role, to seeing you as my head of security instead of the janitor, the guy you're dating. Which is it, Willow? Am I your employee or your boyfriend? Because I can't be both if you're not going to respect both roles. You're both, and I need to do better at separating them. I'll reverse the installation. We'll meet with the vendor together, make the decision as partners. I don't want you to reverse it just to placate me. I want you to respect my professional judgment. If the system is good, we keep it. If it's not, we don't, based on security needs, not relationship dynamics." They worked it out, reviewed the system together. Daniel had concerns about the biometric database security. They addressed them. The system stayed, but with modifications. Their professional relationship strengthened, but the fight taught them both something. Blending love and work was complicated, required clear boundaries, constant communication, willingness to call each other out. They created rules. No romantic gestures at work, no relationship discussions during business hours. Separate professional from personal. It wasn't perfect, but it helped. His relationship with Willow deepened through the rest of the year. They navigated the challenges of blending families, of merging different parenting styles, of scheduling time together around 2 careers and 2 children. It was messy and hard and worth every complication. Willow surprised him by being remarkably down-to-earth, despite her wealth. She didn't flaunt money or expect Daniel to change who he was. She loved that he still made pancakes from box mix, that he wore his Marines t-shirt around her penthouse, that he taught Lucy to throw a baseball in Central Park. Daniel surprised himself by accepting help without resentment. Willow bought clothes for Sophie without asking. She paid for a family vacation to Disney without blinking. She insisted on covering costs Daniel couldn't afford. He learned to let her, to see it not as charity but as partnership, as someone who could help choosing to help. But it wasn't always easy. One afternoon, Sophie came home from school upset. The other kids were talking about how Lucy's mom is a billionaire. They said we're only rich now because you're dating her, that we're using her for money. Daniel's jaw clenched. Kids could be cruel. What did you say? I said Dad works really hard at his job, that he's the head of security, that he earned his position. But they just laughed and said Miss Willow only hired you because you saved Lucy, that it's nepotism. Do you know what that word means? Favoritism to family or friends. I looked it up. Daniel sat beside Sophie on her bed. Listen to me carefully. I took a job I earned. Miss Willow offered it because I had skills the company needed. Yes, saving Lucy opened that door, but I've kept the job because I'm good at it. The security team respects me. The board trusts me. I've stopped multiple threats and made thousands of employees safer. That's not nepotism. That's merit. But we do have more money now because of her. We have more money because I have a better job. If Miss Willow and I broke up tomorrow, I'd still have that job, that salary, those opportunities. Our financial situation changed because I changed careers, not because I'm dating someone wealthy. Would you still love her if she wasn't rich? The question caught Daniel off guard. He thought about it seriously. Yes, absolutely. I fell in love with Willow because she's kind, brilliant, funny, and sees me as an equal despite our different backgrounds. The money is nice, sure. It makes life easier, but it's not why I love her. If she lost everything tomorrow, I'd still want to build a life with her. Sophie hugged him. The kids also said you're a gold digger. I told them to shut up. Sophie, language. Sorry, but they were being mean about you, about us. I hate it. I know, Princess. People will always talk. All we can do is live with integrity and know the truth. Let them think what they want. We know who we are. But the encounter bothered Daniel more than he admitted. He brought it up with Willow that evening. Sophie's getting bullied at school. Kids saying we're using you for money, that I'm a gold digger. Willow's expression hardened. Kids or parents? What? Are the kids parroting what they've heard at home? Because children don't usually use terms like nepotism and gold digger unless they've heard adults say them. Daniel realized she was right. Probably both. I'll talk to the school. This is unacceptable. Sophie shouldn't be punished because we're dating. But maybe they have a point. Maybe this relationship is affecting the girls negatively. Maybe we should... Don't, Willow interrupted. Don't let other people's jealousy make you question us. Yes, our relationship is complicated. Yes, people will judge. But Sophie and Lucy are happy. They're thriving. They're sisters in every way that matters. Are we really going to let bitter adults and mean children destroy that? I just want to protect Sophie. From gossip, from judgment, from being seen as the girl whose dad dated his way to the top. Then we show them it's not true. We keep working hard. We keep building something real. We let our actions speak louder than their words. I'm never going to make as much as you, Daniel said one evening. They were at his apartment, the smaller space he'd kept even though he spent most nights at her place. Even with the promotion, I'll never be on your level financially. I don't care about that. Money is just money, Daniel. I care about who you are. Your character, your courage, the way you love Sophie, the way you love me. That's what matters. Mum, but doesn't it bother you that I can't spoil you the way you spoil me? You spoil me in ways money can't buy. You make me feel safe. You make me laugh. You see me as Willow, not as the CEO. You remind me what matters when I get lost in work. You're teaching Lucy to be brave and kind. That's worth more than any gift. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a small velvet box. Daniel's heart stopped. This isn't what you think, Willow said quickly. I'm not proposing. That's your job when you're ready. But I want you to have this. She opened the box. Inside was a simple gold band engraved with coordinates. The exact spot where you were standing when you saved Lucy, where our lives changed, where I found you. I had it made because I need you to know something. You already gave me the most valuable thing in the world, my daughter's life. Everything else is just details. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. He took the ring, slipped it on his right hand. I love you so damn much. I love you too. And Daniel? I know you're traditional. I know you want to be the one to propose. But when you do, the answer is yes. Just so you know. He laughed through tears. Good to know. Might make the asking easier. Don't wait too long, though. I'm not a patient woman. I noticed. They kissed, and Daniel knew he'd found his person. Again. Different from Sarah, but no less real. You could love two people in a lifetime. You could honor the past while building the future. You could be both, and instead of either or. A year after the shooting, they were engaged. Daniel proposed simply in Central Park, where Lucy had been learning to throw a baseball. Both girls were there, in on the plan, vibrating with excitement. When Willow said yes, Sophie and Lucy tackled them both in a group hug, screaming with joy. They married 6 months later in a small ceremony, just family and close friends. Daniel's Marine buddies, Willow's sister, key employees. Sophie was maid of honor. Lucy was flower girl. They exchanged vows on the Sterling Industries rooftop garden. The city spread out around them, promising to love each other through everything life brought. I was lost until I met you, Willow said, voice thick with emotion. I was surviving but not living. You reminded me how to be alive, how to feel, how to hope. You saved my daughter and somehow saved me too. I promise to love you fiercely, to stand beside you, to build a life with you that honors both what we've lost and what we've found. Daniel's hands shook as he spoke his vows. I was invisible until you saw me. I was working myself to death to pay for the past instead of building the future. You gave me purpose beyond survival. You gave me love I thought I'd never feel again. You gave Sophie a mother and gave me a partner. I promised to protect you, to support you, to love you and Lucy with everything I have. We're a family now, forever. They moved into a brownstone in Brooklyn, bigger than the penthouse, warmer, more like a home. The girls shared a room by choice, wanted to be sisters in every way. Daniel converted the garage into a home gym. Willow created an office where she could work remotely a few days a week. They got the dog Lucy had been begging for, a golden retriever named Captain who adored everyone. Life settled into a pattern. Daniel continued as head of security, was promoted again to chief safety officer, overseeing all corporate safety and risk management. Willow continued as CEO but scaled back her hours, left at 5 p.m. most days, prioritized family dinners and bedtime stories. The company thrived under her renewed energy. Record profits, best workplace awards, industry leadership in employee well-being. Sophie thrived, straight A's, soccer team, art classes. She still talked about her mum, still missed Sarah, but she'd embraced Willow as a second mother. Lucy thrived too. Dance, piano, gifted program at school. She'd healed from the trauma of the shooting, though she still had nightmares sometimes. Daniel would sit with her, rock her, remind her she was safe. One night, 5 years after the shooting, the family was having dinner in their Brooklyn backyard. Warm summer evening, Sophie now 13, Lucy 11, Captain sleeping under the table. They were laughing about something silly when Lucy looked at Daniel seriously. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart." "Do you ever regret it? Taking the bullet for me? Your shoulders still hurt sometimes. I see you wince, and you almost died. Do you wish you'd run away like everyone else?" Daniel reached across the table, took Lucy's hand. "Not for 1 second. That bullet gave me this life, this family, your mom, Sophie as my daughter officially, you alive and safe and happy. I'd take 100 bullets for any of you. That's what love means, protecting the people who matter." Lucy's eyes filled with tears. "I'm glad you're my dad, not just because you saved me, because you're you, because you make Mom happy, because you taught me to throw a curveball, because you never make me feel like I'm not your real daughter. You are my real daughter. Biology doesn't make family, love makes family. And I love you, Lucy Sterling Crawford, so much it scares me sometimes." Willow was crying. Sophie was crying. Even Daniel had tears in his eyes. They moved from the table to a group hug, the 4 of them and the dog, holding each other under the summer stars. Later, after the girls were asleep, Daniel and Willow sat on their back porch swing, watching fireflies. "I never thought I'd be this happy again," Willow said quietly. "After Marcus died, I thought that part of my life was over. Just work and Lucy, nothing else. I made peace with it." I felt the same way. After Sarah, I thought I'd just survive. Work, raise Sophie, exist, not live, not thrive, just endure. Then Lucy almost died, and you appeared, my invisible janitor turned guardian angel. Life's strange, Daniel. How one moment can change everything. I think about that sometimes. What if I hadn't been called in to cover that shift? What if I'd been in a different part of the building? What if I'd hesitated even 1 second? But you didn't. You were exactly where you needed to be. Maybe that's fate. Maybe that's luck. Maybe that's God. I don't know. But I'm grateful for whatever force put you in that ballroom. Daniel pulled her closer. Me too. Even though I got shot, even though it hurt like hell, even though I thought I was going to die, because it brought me to you, and this life with you is worth any pain. They sat in comfortable silence. 20 years of grief and loss transformed into hope and love. 2 people who'd been invisible to each other, now the most visible thing in each other's lives. A janitor and a CEO who found out that titles meant nothing when bullets flew and children screamed. That heroism wasn't about status or wealth. That love could grow from trauma. That families could be built from pieces of broken hearts. Sophie graduated high school at the top of her class. She'd been accepted to Columbia on a full scholarship, planning to study social work, wanting to help people the way her father had. Lucy was in 8th grade, already talking about MIT like her mother, brilliant in math and science. At Sophie's graduation party, Sarah's parents came. They'd been hesitant about Willow at first, protective of their daughter's memory, but they'd come to love her, to see that Sarah would have approved, that Daniel was honoring Sarah by loving fully again. Sarah would be so proud, Sophie's grandmother said to Daniel, watching Sophie laugh with Lucy and Willow. Of Sophie, yes, but also of you. You didn't let grief destroy you. You turned it into strength. I had help, Daniel said, looking at Willow across the yard. Someone believed I was more than just a janitor, saw potential I didn't know I had. She saw what we've always seen. You're a good man, Daniel. Always have been. We're glad you found love again. Glad Sophie has Willow. Glad you built this beautiful family. That night, after everyone left, the four of them sat on their porch with Captain, tired, happy, full of Chinese food and cake. "Best day ever," Sophie declared. "I can't believe I'm going to Columbia. I can't believe this is my life." "You earned it," Willow said. "Every scholarship, every award. You worked incredibly hard." "I learned from the best." Sophie looked at Daniel and Willow both. "Dad taught me that hard work matters more than privilege. That courage is doing the right thing even when it's hard. Mum taught me that success is nothing without compassion. That power should be used to help people. You both taught me that family is everything." Lucy leaned against Daniel. "I used to have nightmares about the gala, about the gun, about almost dying. I don't anymore, because I know Dad will always protect me, that I'm always safe." Daniel kissed the top of her head. "Always, sweetheart. That's the job, keeping you safe." "Not just a job," Lucy said. "Love." "Yeah, love." Willow reached for Daniel's hand. "We built something beautiful, didn't we? From trauma and grief and one moment of crazy courage. We built a family." "The best family," Daniel agreed. 10 years after the shooting, Daniel Crawford stood on the Sterling Industries rooftop garden where he'd married Willow, looking out at Manhattan. He was 48 now, successful, respected, loved. Head of corporate security for one of the world's most valuable companies, husband to an incredible woman, father to 2 remarkable daughters. He thought about that December night, the gunshot, the pain, Lucy's screams, the certainty that he was dying. If someone had told him then that taking a bullet would lead to this life, he'd have taken 100 bullets. The years had been kind to them. Sophie had graduated from Columbia at the top of her social work program, now working with at-risk youth in the Bronx, teaching resilience and courage to kids who reminded Daniel of himself. Lucy was finishing her junior year at MIT, double majoring in computer science and psychology, developing AI systems to predict and prevent workplace violence. Both girls had inherited their parents' desire to protect people, to make the world safer. The shooting had left its mark on all of them. Lucy still had nightmares sometimes, woke up screaming about guns and blood. Daniel would sit with her, like he had when she was 6, reminding her she was safe. Sophie had developed anxiety, saw a therapist weekly, worked through her fear of losing another parent. They'd all been changed by that night, scarred but not broken. The annual gala tradition had changed too. Sterling Industries still held the charity event, but with vastly different security. Metal detectors, armed guards, strict protocols. Daniel had made sure nothing like Brennan could happen again. The company also started a foundation in Marcus Brennan's name, ironically providing mental health support for terminated employees, job placement assistance, counseling for those struggling with career loss, turning tragedy into help for others. "We could have let that night destroy us," Willow had said when announcing the foundation. "Instead, we chose to let it transform us." Marcus Brennan was a man in pain who made a terrible choice. We can't undo what he did, but we can help others before they reach that point of desperation. That's how we honor the people he hurt, by preventing future tragedies. The foundation had helped thousands. Former employees who'd been fired found resources instead of despair. Mental health support prevented crises. Job placement programs gave people hope. It was Daniel's idea, actually. Willow had been skeptical, didn't want to memorialize someone who'd tried to kill their daughter, but Daniel had convinced her. Brennan wasn't born a shooter. He was made one by circumstances and lack of support. If we truly want to prevent violence, we have to address root causes, desperation, mental illness, lack of resources. That's how we really keep people safe. Willow joined him on the rooftop, wrapped her arms around him from behind. "What are you thinking about?" "Everything. How far we've come. How one night changed everything. Do you ever wonder what Marcus Brennan was thinking? Why he did it? Pain makes people crazy. He lost everything and wanted someone to blame. I feel sorry for him, actually. He threw away his life for revenge that wouldn't have fixed anything. He died in prison 5 years ago, alone and forgotten. What a waste. You saved so many people that night. The detective said Brennan had enough ammunition for a massacre. You stopped it by protecting Lucy, by being brave when everyone else ran. I wasn't brave. I was terrified. I just couldn't let a child die. That's what makes it brave, acting despite fear. You taught our daughters that. Sophie works with at-risk kids now, teaching them courage. Lucy's developing trauma response technology. They're both making the world better because they learned from you. Daniel turned in her arms. They learned from both of us. You taught them that power should serve others, that wealth is a responsibility, not just a privilege, that success means nothing if you're not helping people. You're an incredible mother, Willow. We're a good team, always have been. The best team. They stood together as the sun set, two people who'd found each other in trauma and built joy from ashes. The janitor and the CEO, the hero and the woman he saved. The blended family that proved love could multiply, not divide. The second chance that became a first choice. Do you ever regret it? Willow asked softly. Taking that bullet? Your shoulder still hurts. You can't throw a baseball like you used to. You have nightmares where you're back in that ballroom. Not for 1 second, Daniel said firmly. That bullet gave me this life. You, Lucy, Sophie as my daughter officially, a career that matters, a family that's everything. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. I'd do it 1,000 times. I love you, Daniel Crawford, my hero, my husband, my home. I love you too, Willow Crawford, my miracle, my partner, my forever. That's what makes it brave. Acting despite fear. You taught our daughters that. Sophie works with at-risk kids now, teaching them courage. Lucy's developing trauma response technology. They're both making the world better because they learned from you. Daniel turned in her arms, looked at his wife. Still beautiful, still brilliant, still his best friend. I love you, Willow Sterling Crawford. I love you too, Daniel Crawford. My hero, my husband, my home. They kissed as the sun set over Manhattan, two people who'd found each other in the worst moment and built the best life. Proof that sometimes the person who saves you is the one you never saw, that invisible people can be heroes, that janitors can become heads of security, that CEOs can fall in love with former Marines, that children can survive trauma and thrive, that broken families can become whole, that courage and love can change everything.